So China is gaining control over Africa's foreign policy and its best jobs. Not to mention, a lot of these projects put Chinese companies in charge of Africa's prized natural resources, especially precious metals. So when you start to examine this relationship as a whole, it actually starts to look a lot less like a loan and a lot more like a new kind of colonialism.
Chinese investment has led to mounting debt and few, if any, jobs in most countries. When coupled with the political and fiscal pressure, this endangers Africa's natural resources and its long-term economic political stability.
But is China's investment in the continent actually a win-win, as some African and Chinese leaders have said? Or just a new form of colonialism on a continent that's experienced so much of it?
The motives behind European powers expanding their territory to less developed nations in the 15th through 20th centuries were remarkably similar to the motivations between China's growing economic influence in the developing world today.
John Adams said it best when he said, quote, "There are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword and the other is by debt." So many of these projects have been paid for by Chinese money through loans. African nations diving deep into debt. We all know that when you owe someone money, that person has a lot of power over you, especially if you get to the point where you can't pay them back. What are the actual motives here? They're not just business and economic. And the bigger question that I want to keep an eye on going forward is, how is all this debt going to play out? How will African nations who are so deeply indebted to China have to service that debt in the future? And what will happen if they can't pay it back?
I want to thank His Majesty for everything he has done for our bilateral relationship. Under his leadership, we know Taiwan has no better and more outspoken friend on the international stage. We know we can always count on Swaziland's unwavering support. Taiwan and Swaziland are partners in every sense of the word.
our side, we are ready to do anything, and everything is available. We wish to see the company to fully establish in eSwatini as soon as possible.
The Kingdom of Eswatini calls upon the United Nations to make the necessary arrangements for Taiwan to significantly participate in relevant UN specialized agencies and mechanisms.
And we are aware that in the main of everything, our biggest enemy in Swaziland is Taiwan. That has already assumed colonial power over our country. Taiwan is a province of China. Yes. It's not a country. Mswati has got no right to run our country. And they also have the same condition that they've got no right to control that territory.
The royal family lives a luxurious lifestyle, while about 70% of the people live below the poverty line. And the people are saying, it is not right that you use our wealth for your personal and your family enrichment while we remain poor. When Swaziland gained independence in 1968, they continued to they became friends or allies with Taiwan, who remain the regime's supporters even today, militarily, economically, and otherwise. If you were to remove all these support systems, this regime would fall the next hour. Forget about the next day. The next hour, it will fall.
Hello, comrades. My name is Comrade Justin Yeri of the Friends of Swazi Freedom. I am, on behalf of the Friends of Swazi Freedom, I am their treasurer as well as a member. I am in South Africa right now. Over the past 2 weeks, I have been meeting with people of Swaziland from the Communist Party of Swaziland, discussing politics, discussing organizing strategies, and learning from their example. And one of the things that's been brought to my attention by them is the nature of Taiwanese colonization and exploitation of Swaziland. And therefore, we want to use our platform at Friends of Swazi Freedom to allow the eMswati people to share with a Western audience from the United States, Europe, Australia, and so on, the nature of Taiwanese exploitation and colonization of Swaziland. In this way, we wish to overcome that reactionary propaganda and share with people the stories of the eMswati people and give their testimonies as to how they are exploited, colonized, and abused by Taiwan's both economic colonization of resources in Swaziland, as well as its military support for the repressive Mswati regime. Without further ado, comrades and friends, I present to you the testimonies of the Swazi people.
Greetings, comrades. My name is Mswati. I'm the member of the Communist Party of Swaziland. I also serve in the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Swaziland. As the people of Swaziland, we understand and we have come to understand that the people in the world don't understand or have the information enough about Taiwan and the way it contributes to the exploitation and oppression of the people of Swaziland, assisting Mswati to continue oppressing the people of Swaziland. What we've seen as the people of Swaziland and the experience that we have with China having diplomatic ties with Mswati, that is not in the interest of the people of Swaziland, but for his own selfish interest and his family, the monarchy. And we have seen many Swazis being exploited by the businesses that have come to Swaziland through Taiwan. We have many firms that are making garments in Swaziland that are owned by Taiwanese. And many Swazis are being hired there and being paid very low wages. And they are exploited in many ways. Most of these Swazis who go to work in the Taiwanese firms are coming from rural areas, and they have to rent houses and they have to buy groceries for living so that they can be able to go to work. But what we have understand is that they are not even able to cater for their needs and the needs that they have back in their homes. So through through the low wages that they are being paid, and we have seen many of them, because many of them are women, the people who are working in those firms. You find them having multiple relationships with many people because they are trying to sustain themselves economically, because they have to make that relationship so that they can be supported by the men economically, so that they can be able to sustain themselves in their workplaces, and they can be able to return something at home at the end of the month. Many of the workers that are employed in the Taiwanese firms are employed in contracts. They can spend many years working in contracts, but they are not being hired permanent. And it gives us a problem, because if they cared about the working class or the people of Swaziland, they should be employed permanent, and they should be paid enough wages that can help them to sustain their livelihood and their families. So we have also seen many of them, the workers who work in the Taiwanese firms, being denied sick leaves. When they are going for sick leaves, they are not being paid. Some of them, they are denied even maternity leave, which is against human rights. But still, Mswati is supporting that, because if it wasn't because of the relationship the Taiwanese have with Mswati, he was going to correct that. So it have given us a lot of problem, and we've seen corruption, where we have seen the companies, the owners of the company, the Taiwanese companies, bribing trade unions so that they can call off strikes that the workers embark on, seeking and demanding better wages and better working conditions. And we have also seen Taiwan supporting Mswati in maintaining him to survive and continue to suppress and oppress the people of Swaziland. The Taiwan government have supplied Mswati with military training for the armed forces for Mswati's army, and they also provide arms and ammunition. They also even provide a uniform for the OSU and the army of Swaziland. So as the people of Swaziland, we are not happy about the government of Swaziland, and that's why we are fighting to overthrow the monarchy and its rule. But we have seen Taiwan supporting Mswati in all ways, that he can make sure that he continue to suppress and oppress the people of Swaziland. And we believe and understand that it is not all the people of Taiwan that are happy about the way Taiwan is doing in our country, but because of the government system and the influence that came with the imperialist countries, and mostly America, who supports Taiwan to continue making relationships with other countries so that they can continue oppressing and exploiting other countries. So, but we call for the people of Taiwan to stand and support the One China principle so that Taiwan and China can unite so that they can be able to enjoy and have freedom. Because now Taiwan is fighting so that China is still fighting to reunite China and Taiwan. But because of the imperialist countries, mostly America, is making sure that Taiwan is always divided. Taiwanese people are not benefiting anything from the division, but they are only losing. So we feel like if the people of Taiwan can stand against the government of Taiwan and fight for the reunion of Taiwan and China, they can see a better life and better livelihood for tomorrow, and they can be able to attain socialism when they are together. But divided, they will be always fighting because they are not benefiting, but only the America are benefiting through making them the war zone, the war ground. That's my testimony that I have through the experience that we have.
Greetings, comrades. My name is Sambulo Shongwe from Swaziland. I'm currently the chairperson of Mbabane Campus Branch under the Swaziland National Union of Students. I'll be talking on the exploitation of the Taiwanese government, the exploitation of the Swazi people under the Taiwanese government through their relations with the United States of America. The Taiwanese government has exploited the Swazi people. Firstly, they have taken the textile factories around Swaziland, whereby they are underpaying Swazis and using them as cheap labor around Nhlangano and Matapa. There are thousands of Swazis who are being exploited and underpaid by the Taiwanese government. Also, Swazis have been of late. Swazis have been evicted from their land, whereby the Taiwanese government is working with sway. Increase. The people of Swaziland have been subjected to evictions, whereby the Taiwanese government is using the land for agricultural purposes, all in the benefit of their relations with the United States and at the expense of the Swazi people. Also, the Taiwanese government have been so oppressive to the women of Swaziland, whereby the Taiwanese government have been suppressive to the most vulnerable in society in Swaziland, whereby they are exploiting women all in the name of earning a living. And the Taiwanese government has also been so suppressive to the struggle of the poor marginalized people of Swaziland, whereby we find themselves supporting the Mswati's oppressive regime. We call upon the reunification of China and Taiwan under the One China policy. In conclusion, we would like to call the solidarity from all the working people from the working class of the world in isolation of the Taiwanese government and it reunification and it reunifying with China under the China policy. Forward to socialism, forward to communism, forward to One China policy, forward. Amandla.